Hello, everyone, and welcome on into another Unapologetic Woman Hour, conversations that I'm having with real women about real stuff and what it means to truly express yourself unapologetically and authentically. And we have a beautiful soul, Alison, here today that's going to share about her experiences with being a mama and all that comes along with that. So I'd love to just get the ball rolling with this conversation by Alison, just having you share with my community a little bit about who you are and who you serve.
Sure. Thank you so very much for this opportunity. I love connecting with other women. That is my passion. And I think it's important for us to all share our stories. I think previous generations, just because women had babies and that's just what you did, nobody really talked about like what all went into getting pregnant and having babies and all the things. So happy to share my story. So in long story short, I'm one of those that I knew I wanted kids eventually. But like when I, was in my late 20s, I was like, not now, not at all, whatever. And then one day the light bulb goes off and I'm like, guess I'm ready. I went off the pill and then we tried for a year with no success. I had an ectopic pregnancy, didn't even know what that was, had to learn what that was. And then eventually had a second emergency surgery because I ended up losing my tube, which was a medical anomaly according to my doctor. And so then I think I had the tube removal in February, and then I finally got pregnant in July. And I had to completely turn it over to God, universe, source, whatever you refer to as the higher power, because I had just given up. I'm like, you know what? I've done everything I can. And, I know there's so many women out there who struggle getting pregnant these days. So many that struggled more than I did. And I was blessed with, I have two boys now. And I struggled with weight gain, which was not my story previously. Like I've been very healthy and active my whole life. And so finally being in the shoes of all those women that I heard be like, I just can't lose the baby weight. I'm miserable. I don't feel like myself. I never resonated. I never understood that until I was living it, because I gained 50 and 57 pounds with my boys, even though I was eating healthy and exercising and doing all the things that they say you should do for healthy pregnancy. My body just needed to do that. And so I had to learn to accept that piece of it. I didn't get the burst that I wanted. Like they say the baby's going to come, how and when the baby's going to come. And there's really, it's important to have a plan, but yet you need to understand that the plan's not going to happen most likely. And just to be able to go with the flow. I ended up with a scheduled C-section at 40 weeks and 5 days with my first because he was breech. I did get a VBAC with my second. I wanted a water birth, but I learned about a thing called prodromal labor. So, there was all of these things along the way. And as I tell the story every time, it just reminds me that this was my story because that's what I needed to experience to fulfill my purpose in this world, which is to really get women talk about these things. And then after my second, I developed what I now know is postpartum rage, a form of postpartum depression. And that is really for me when I kind of had to do some real soul searching. After I came out of it. In the middle of it, there was nothing that was happening except for just pure survival. And so if you're in that situation where you're going through a postpartum mood and anxiety disorder, know that it is okay. You will survive, you will make it through. There are tools and resources. And don't put any extra pressure on yourself to achieve and accomplish all of these things. Just focus on you feeling better. And so I went through all of that to this year. I think my son was about 3 years old when I finally was like, my purpose, I get it. I get why I had to go through all of that, even though I was doing the praying and the manifesting and the hypnosis and the this and that to try and, make it happen how I wanted it to happen. And God was like, nice try, lady. I've got different plans for you.
Yeah, it's showing up for the life that gets to be revealed to us versus a life we try and make happen or we try and plan. And sometimes, and I would love your take on this. I think because as women, we want to plan and create structures and we want to make sure everybody's comfortable and safe and that we can have an idea of what's going to happen. whether we're taking our kids to the theme park or we're trying to get pregnant, or, you know, our kids got something going on in school. There's always this, like, we want things to be in this nice, cozy little home in the space and the schedule and time. And sometimes giving up some of that control to what you said, you know, God, universe, it can take some of the weight off.
Yeah.
Did you have like your own internal struggles around that? Because I think I work with a lot of mothers. You know, I work with women honoring sacred self-care. And for them, it's like I had to get to a point where I got hit by so many life 2x4s that I realized, yes, I do have to take care of myself, but I also can choose to take care of myself. And it doesn't mean I don't love the other people in my life any less. I find as mothers, sometimes there's this internal struggle of like letting go, trusting higher power source, and wanting to make sure everybody's safe and okay.
Yeah, 100%. I know. I mean, my mother is a saint, and everything growing up, I felt like was about us and what the kids and what her husband and what the family needed. And I do not remember her doing anything for herself, like ever. And a lot of times I feel like we put that on a pedestal and like, oh my gosh, she's so amazing. Wow, look at her. She's giving so much to her family and she's so great. And yes, that is wonderful. But at the same time, you can't pour from an empty cup. And so I had to learn that self-care didn't mean I needed to take a 3-hour siesta in the middle of the afternoon and have somebody watch my kids that I couldn't find, so that I could go get a facial and get my nails done. Like in my head, that's kind of how I envisioned self-care, right? Like was these luxurious experiences at the spa. Like for some reason, I don't know why I feel like in our society today, like that is seen as self-care. No, self-care can literally be taking a break and walking outside. And for me, I go barefoot in the grass and just take some deep breaths. Like when I've been triggered too much by my kids. It can be having, you know, your partner watch the kids for 15 minutes, put them to bed or whatever you can, so that you can take a nice quiet bath. It can be waking up 15 minutes early and enjoying your favorite beverage in the quiet and staring at a wall. Like literally, it can be anything. And I had to learn to take small steps. Like I couldn't commit to an hour a week of doing something for myself. Like I couldn't. I didn't have the resources, the help, the capacity to take that time away from my kids. So I had to find ways to incorporate it. I love working out, so I had to find ways to squeeze in a workout with my kids. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, you have to get creative and let go, like you said. It's and that's like the hardest thing.
Well, I love what you shared in your story. I think it'll resonate with a lot of women out there that are moms, because there is this identity that society has created for moms. Mm-hmm. And it's this, how does she do it all kind of mentality. And what you said is true. You can't pour from an empty cup. And then we get these other, to me, it's a little bit more of like toxic masculine energy kind of messages where, yeah, well, if you take care of yourself, it means you need to leave everybody. Like go to a spa, get away, like go away from them. And self-care is really just tapping back into source energy. So you have the source, you know, to give, but also, and I'd love your thoughts on this, because I think it would bring it all full circle. It's also practicing the power of vulnerability. Like you said, because reaching out for help. And so often there can come guilt, shame, blame, judgment, whatever we want to say when we have to reach out and ask for help. But a lot of times that's the most powerful, courageous thing to do, is to ask for help, be vulnerable, reach out. It's like, well, you're one person.
Yeah, I know. Just one. And if you have multiple kids, you're outnumbered.
Yeah, I would be curious, like, this is all about being unapologetic. So where do you see as moms, if they practice more of the power of vulnerability and asking for help more, how that could potentially help shift their identity as a mom, but also help shift the relationships they have with their spouse, maybe with their family, even with their children, by practicing more vulnerability and asking for help?
Absolutely. One of the things that I found interesting, women are created to be creators. Like we have all the equipment necessary to create life. And so that's, you know, some women choose to and some women don't. And that is totally fine. But for those of us that do, there is that sacred transition from maiden to motherhood. And the sacredness of that change in a woman's life has been lost, I think, in our society today. There's no cultural tradition to honor that. You know, in traditional cultures around the world, native cultures, they have a whole like series of traditions that they do to honor that time period of, you know, between pregnancy, birth, and then postpartum. And it looks different depending on the, you know, the community and the culture, but there's literally nothing here. And we expect moms to just have a baby, get pregnant, have a baby, stay home for a couple of weeks and then go back to work, go back to your regular life, like do everything normally. And I mean, it takes 40 plus weeks to develop that human life. So it's going to take at least that to just physically recover. And so I think being able to tap into who you are as it changes through that process is so important. And we don't give ourselves that time in our society. There's no downtime to honor that. There's no system set up to help support a mother as she is home with a newborn, so that she can honor that and tap into that so that she can reach that wisdom, that intuition, that gut feeling as a new mother. And so I think it's really important for us to pause more, which seems impossible in our lives today with everything going 5 million miles an hour, with all the notifications going off into this, and you got to look at this and you got to check this and you got to buy this and don't forget to call this person and all the things. And so, I mean, I really think it just boils down to each woman taking more time, even if it's just 5 minutes a day, to just check in. One thing I learned in my postpartum doula course was to like check in and physically like scan the body, like mentally, you know, like go through, look at head. How's my head feeling? Okay, do I have any crazy thoughts today? What's considered crazy? Is this considered crazy? I don't know. Maybe I should talk to somebody about that. You know, like go down. How are my breasts doing today? How are, you know, arms? Is something hurting? Oh, you know, I've been holding the baby in this arm a lot. Man, oh my God, my shoulder's killing me. Like, and just go through the whole body and just pause and honor where you are and process maybe what steps you might need to take. What do you need to focus on in that moment? What's most important for you so that you can then in turn take care of your family. Yeah, so I don't even know if I answered your question, but
you did. And it's authentic. It's authentic listening. So when we're truly listening, there's this natural give and take that can happen with others. And a lot of times, if we're not listening, whether we're just depleted or we're a depleted mom, if we're not listening to this, our vessel, then we're not able to truly then ask someone for help because we don't maybe even know what that help looks like.
And I think so many moms go through that, like, because you're in a way kind of just drowning, like you're just trying to keep your head above water. And somebody's like, well, what can I do? I have no idea. I don't even know the things that I have to do because your brain is just mush. I make jokes that my sons are 5.5 and 3.5. And I make jokes that like now my 3 remaining brain cells are actually working together and I can do things. There's 3 of them up there and they're all that I have left. But I tell you what, they're functioning now and it's amazing when it happens and it all comes together. But for real, like pregnancy and postpartum, I mean, we got to give ourselves a break because our brain, like the energy is put elsewhere to do other things and very important things. And it's okay that none of it makes sense up here. It's okay. That's why ask for help.
Well, and that's why I wanted to bring that up as, you know, we bring this conversation to a close. It's with anything, you know, I've had training in purpose-driven life and trauma recovery, and it's the same. It's the same thing. It's like, don't isolate. Every time we isolate, then it's really difficult for us to transform and work through whatever is happening. And know, as women out there, like when we band together, I think what you said, Alison, is so powerful, is we've lost the sacredness of the transition. And I work with a lot of women that are moving out of motherhood more into like the wise woman, the crone phase, where it's like tapping into that just true innate wisdom. It's like the head of the tribe, and in some cultures they call it that. Because if we haven't sacredly transitioned into motherhood, then we get to the next transition. It's like, it's this loss of identity. And I have found, and probably you have had some experiences like this, when you can be together, it doesn't need to be consistent all the time, but when you can be together with people that are having similar experiences, a lot of the meanings we're making about things, the guilt, the shame, all that can kind of leave for a moment, and we can kind of catch our breath again into some level of like presence. And so I know one of the ways that you do this is like supporting women with free gifts and helping them to not feel like they're super alone, and that they are, they're not isolated. And I love what you do, because I think it's really aligned with the work that I do, which is quality over quantity, right? If you only have 5 minutes, how are you going to use those 5 minutes?
Yep.
How are you going to use those 5 minutes? And so this high quality over quantity, we can realize that time is something we all have the same of, but we all choose to spend it differently. And when women can tap into their innate own wisdom and also know that it's okay to be held by others, that's when I know that they're able and know how and what they need, because they're then listening. It's like they put the right headset back on. They can listen to themselves again. So I would love for you to share your free gift, your free resource for all the women that we have here, so they can get to know you a little bit more.
Absolutely. Yes. That's my big thing. Like, one of my biggest tips for new moms is find a tribe that you align with, and just do that. Like, because that saved my life, like quite literally, my sanity, everything. So so I actually have a free online resource guide for moms. It covers everything from physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and financial health. Because a lot of times we get stuck in the physical realm because that's what we can see and that's what we can feel, but there's so many other layers to our health and our just whole body, our whole selves. So this online resource guide has, I think it's over 20 different resources that cover all those 5 areas. And it can be, I mean, some of them are just books, some of them are a podcast here and there, but I think we sometimes forget the power in hearing something at the right time. And how it can be a positive trigger, a positive, like little spur for somebody to take an action or to see something differently, or to, be like, oh my gosh, I can actually do this. I'm really big about offering moms real actionable tips that they can implement in their life that will make a difference, because you can have a big, massive goal all you want, but until you break it down into chunks, it's just going to be a big, massive goal. And so I like being able to change like one thing at a time, like focus on one thing. What's one thing that you can adjust to help yourself feel better? So yeah, you can follow me on Instagram. I think you're going to link, have the link in the comments there, or in the description. But yeah, find me on Instagram. It's just my name. And I love to connect with other women and just see how we can support each other.
Yes. Well, thank you for all the work you're doing, and
thank you.
The challenges and the struggles you had now and bringing it out into the world. The more that we can share stories like this, the more of us can realize we're not alone, and that we can actually do this thing called life differently and make it feel better.
Yes. Amen.
Amen. So as we close out, I always love to ask my guests before we end, what does it mean to be unapologetic to you, Alison?
It means not really giving a shit what other people think. Pardon my French. And that is a learned skill. Let me tell you, I was raised in a small town, and you were supposed to really care what everybody else thought. And no, that's not really how it works. Whatever you feel is right for you is what matters.
Yes.
And so I think being unapologetic about that and being able to set boundaries and knowing, nope, this is me, this is where I stand, this is how I feel, and it matters, and I'm going to hold that boundary.
When a no to somebody else means a yes to you, you're in alignment. That's what I say.
Yes. I love that. Yes.
Well, everyone here, if you've vibed with this conversation, make sure to please share it. I'll be giving you all the information to reach out to Alison with her free gift, as well as how you can connect to her on the social channels. And let's keep being more unapologetic women. We all, if we're not a mom, we know a mom in our lives. And if more moms thrive, we all thrive. So thank you for being here, Alison, and doing all the powerful work that you do.
Thank you.